Yeah, so we lost out on two recruits this past July 4th, this past weekend, and two high 3-star, 4-star kind of guys in Jacoby Spells and defensive end Durant. So here's the thing. Um, there's been back and forth conversation about the fact that the Miami Hurricanes only have three commits. We only had four at one point, and one of them decommitted, and in Quan Lee, and so we ended up having um, Ibieta, who is the slot receiver that we're going to hold on to through here. Okay, it's not really much I can say to just fix it. Okay, I can't fix people's emotion towards this, and I do understand. We were saying the same thing in March that we were saying in April, that we were saying in May, that we were saying in June, and now we're saying the same thing here in July. And a lot of people want to start seeing some movement. Damn it, I understand, but it's July, and a lot of commits for the Miami Hurricanes, or top five, or top eights, or top 12s who will be committing, are in this month of July. You also have training camp, which is 2.5 weeks away, the first week of August. So things are going to start rolling. ACC, SEC, Big Ten media days. You know, football is about to be. You can start smell the grass, Mark. You can smell the grass is coming up, and I completely understand people's frustration towards this. I understand that you want to see your Miami Hurricanes get rolling. I understand you're tired of having people from Tallahassee and UCF and Gainesville in your mentions bothering you about the fact that you have the 75th ranked recruiting class and you're behind Memphis and yada, yada, yada. None of that stuff matters right now. I side with our head coach, but I also understand where our fans are coming from. But I side with our head coach. You don't want to win the June and July baking battle, is how he put it. Okay, you don't want to be the number one recruiting class in the month of June. We get to December and you're 18th. Okay, for the longest, you look. Think back to Coach Al Golden. Al Golden had the number one recruiting class a year or 2 years out multiple times. It never finished that high. Okay, we finished as high as number 8 under Al Golden with my recruiting class 2014. But even then, we lost a whole bunch of recruits because guess what? We went out there and went 9-4. We didn't go out there and go 11-1 or 11-2 or 12-1, something like that on a different level. Okay, there is going to become a point where foot is going to meet ball, okay, and you got to start going out there and playing football games, and that's where the NLI, that's where the bag man, that's where all the your conference pride, all that crap goes out the window. Who's winning football games? Who's losing football games? Who's developing first round draft picks? Who's developing high strength and conditioning first round draft pick bodies? And who's winning championships? That's what matters when you start playing football here in less than a month, or a little over a month, as far as actual games. So, just that simple.
Yeah, I mean, one was expected in Zane Durant from Lake Nona in Central Florida. Um, Pretty tough to have him go to Penn State, especially since all indications were that he was one of the silent commits after his official visit that Manny was kind of referencing, because you cannot reference players until they've signed. So that's why you'll never get a coach saying this recruit by name or that recruit by name, kind of a thing. And then coaches have different platforms. Like, if Nick Saban is, talking at the national championship game about, oh, well, I'm recruiting Cam Underwood with Mark Rogers, like on that platform versus, a mid-tier team, or someone who's not on that stage. Like, that's kind of where it comes from, really, because they have different play. It's like if Coach K were to talk about recruiting when he's coaching the U.S. national team, back in the day. It's kind of a thing. So that's why they don't have that ability to name anybody by name. So you won't actually hear that from him, but that's been a lot of the chatter, was that he was one of the silently committed kids. Zane Durant was, but he ended up committing to Penn State. And even Chris Hayes from the Orlando Sentinel wrote, he was like, Zane Durant surprises his family by committing to Penn State. So, like, everybody kind of thought he was going to Miami because he told them that he was coming to Miami. So, yeah, that's not necessarily great as a defensive tackle. And And then that also engenders a conversation of where does Miami go at defensive tackle, because you have the kid from Homestead, the Daniel Lyons kid. You can hope and pray for Barry Alexander, but spoiler alert, that's probably not going to happen. So, at defensive tackle, where do you go? And for me, this just underscores the absolutely incredible importance last year of getting Leonard Taylor, the number 3 overall player in America, as a defensive tackle from the local area. And then, you want to pair that, obviously, or pair him with other players, and Zane Durant going to Penn State, or picking Penn State at this time instead of Miami, not necessarily great. Jacoby Spells from American Heritage committed to West Virginia. That was widely expected. And with all due respect to Jacoby Spells, I think that people wanted him more for the line in his bio of where he attends high school than anything else in there, whether it be size, whether it be speed, whether it be ability. Because, and again, with all due respect to him, who's a player who could play and start in a Power 5 program, Miami has other guys who are better on the list at cornerback this year that we're chasing. So if he wanted the love, like he was the number 1 corner on the board, to me, he was 5th or 6th at cornerback on the board of the available options this year. And you already have Kamari Rogers, who's committed. Traquan Fagans, you're going after. Somebody else that we'll talk about in a little bit. Some other guys as well. I'm probably taking all of those guys. I'll just say it because I want to talk about them. We'll circle back. So, like I said, we got Rogers committed. Traquan Fagans, Miami's still in the fight for him. Depending on when he wants to make a commitment, things could go one way or another, but definitely firmly ensconced in a recruiting battle for him. Chris Graves from Bishop Verot, who is supposed to announce tomorrow at 6 p.m. Hopefully will pick Miami. 6'5", 175 athlete, but he's going to play corner, defensive back, teammate of Malik Curtis from Bishop Verot in the past few years. So he's one, and I would take him over on the board over Spells. I'm taking either or both of the Henderson twins from Orlando, Jakari and Damari. One of them plays corner, one of them plays safety, but I'm probably going to take both of them on the list as well. You got either 4, or even if you're taking one Henderson twin and not the other at corner, I still got 4 solid that I'm taking in front of Jacoby Spells. If you put both Henderson twins on that same list, I'm taking all 5 of them before I'm taking Jacoby Spells. And again, Jacoby Spells is a kid who can play here. Absolutely. But this is one where you had to make a choice. And with all due respect, I'm going with other bigger, faster, more athletic dudes. Sorry, not sorry. You have Spells who picked West Virginia. You had Durant who tacitly flipped because he was a silent commit to Penn State. And then a couple hours ago, you had Demario Tolan from Orlando Dr. Phillips who picked LSU. In spite of Blake Baker, who Ronan Jones in the comment is talking about, Blake Baker talking smack on Twitter. They said, I'd love to go to the Sunshine State and get the big fish in the boat because he went fishing. And so he had pictures of these because, you can't actually name a player's name or anything, but you can subtweeting. You're talking about him, but you're not talking about him. You know what I mean? But that was in spite of Blake Baker. It wasn't because of Blake Baker. That's perfectly honest and everything. You look back when Craig Kuligowski left Miami, went to Alabama. Craig Kuligowski, who struggled to recruit here because it's a different kind of recruiting. And then, it goes to Alabama, and Alabama's getting 5 stars in the boat because that program recruits itself. You got other people who are doing the recruiting and everything like that. Same thing in Blake Baker's instance. And I saw some people were talking about, he was a strong recruiter. He knows Houston, Louisiana, and blah, blah, blah. That would be a great point if Demario Tolan was not from Orlando. You know what I mean? Like if he was from Nacogdoches or whatever you call it in Louisiana, or if he was from Allen, Texas, or if he was from one of those spots, you would be so right. But he's from Orlando Dr. Phillips High School. Man, coach at Miami couldn't get anybody really of consequence at linebacker. So miss me with he's a great recruiter and he knows these areas when, again, he came to Florida, or LSU went to Florida and got this kid. Unless Jimmy Detail and Ross Dellinger and every single journalist from Louisiana writes pieces and says Blake Baker single-handedly recruited Demario Tolan and he gets the credit, I personally am not giving him the credit because I have a brain that works. You know what I mean? Like I saw what he did here and I saw what he's doing there, and it's the program, it's not the coach. So those three of Tolan and Spells and Durant committing elsewhere, not necessarily great for Miami, especially in the case of Tolan because we need linebackers, and Durant because he was a silent commit and we need defensive tackles both. Hopefully, like I said, Chris Graves coming from Bishop Verot tomorrow evening will be a guy who commits to Miami. He's a 16-year-old rising senior, and I keep seeing everybody talk about this. And you're like, okay, yeah. It's noted every time, but that's really kind of incredible. So he's like a year and a half, if not 2 years younger than grade level. So, if you're talking about developmental, right, for athletic potential, he's super young. So his ceiling is even more impressive to be this kind of athlete at that young age. So you're talking the age that most guys are sophomores or rising juniors, and I'm a rising senior, doesn't turn 17 until the middle of his senior season. Hey, so that adds value because of the timeline. I forget the kid's name, but there was a lineman who went to like Houston or something who was like 16 years old, like a while ago. It wasn't Ed Oliver. It was before Ed Oliver. Defensive lineman. Or Louisville. He went to Louisville. I forget his name, but he was super young.
I know who you're talking about, too. Amobi Okoye.
Dang. There he goes. That was the one. Wore number 91, I believe, at Louisville. And yeah, so Chris Graves being young is a good thing for Miami or any program that we're getting. Hopefully it'll be Miami. And then we can hopefully continue to move forward. I think since the last time that we spoke, Miami parted ways with Quan Lee from Gainesville Buckholz High School because he wanted to evaluate his other options. And again, if you're looking, we're looking. And Manny Diaz, the coach of Miami, has been very clear on that. And so Quan Lee said, well, yeah, I am actually looking. So are we then. Good luck and Godspeed. So Miami only has 3 commitments right now. Not necessarily where you want to be. Not on the path or pace of commitments that I was looking for at first through the July 4th weekend, but then transferring that because obviously kids were taking visits during the month of June. So you want to see a little bit more movement in the month of July, but you're 0 for 3 so far. Maybe go 1 for 4 by getting Chris Graves tomorrow in this month of commitments. And I'm not worried because I don't think that we're going to end the cycle in this state of recruiting affairs, of number commitments and everything. Although we do have a 92 or 93 player average rating, which is incredible. So I would like to see that continue. But in terms of the raw numbers in this class, I don't think that we're there or going to end here. And there are still options available that we're recruiting. For example, if you did not get Demario Tolan, you still have the Jackson kid from Nebraska, and then you still have Wesley Basaint. You could also go back on Travis Lathan from Gulliver Prep, who's also a 4-star. So you're like, okay, I could have 3 options for 2 spots, maybe. You know what I mean? So you could find a way to still have the kind of class that you need. Me, myself, personally, even though I'm not necessarily worried, I would like to see positive movement because as the time horizon closes, that's when things get a little bit more desperate or they seem more desperate. And you don't want to seem desperate or anything, especially because you have the looming game against Alabama in 50-something days, which is probably not going to go well on the field for Miami. And you'd like to see a little bit more. I would like to see more movement on the recruiting trail in a positive way for Miami between now and then, but we will see.
That is a great find in your memory with Okoye because I remembered exactly who you were talking about as soon as you said it, but I don't think I would have come up with him had the topic been brought up. And the reason you probably were thinking Houston was that he was drafted by the Houston Texans. He is the youngest player to ever be drafted in the first round of the NFL draft.
At 19 or something.
Yes, 19 years old, drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, 2007. He was actually the rookie of the month, his very first month in the NFL in September, and then it all came tumbling down. He only lasted 4 years in the NFL.
Got it. Okay. But like, again, there's stuff in here. So when we're talking about a young player and everything, the comparison to Chris Graves, I think it fits. But yeah, it was shout out to me.